Tonight, DCI is closing in on dam scam suspects. PS grilled, ex-CS lined up, and 2 CSs questioned afresh.
Plus, Queen's Counsel Qureshi tells court there is evidence. DCJ Mwilu stands accused.
There is a substantial amount of indebtedness, some 49 million shillings, which is now unsecured.
Also tonight, 6 decomposing bodies found in Tsavo. Families with missing kin flock City Morgue for answers.
Inaniuma sana. Natamani hata nipate mwili tu tuweze kuzika.
Plus,
kasikia something imerusha na ika-explode. Kidogo moshi kaja, we were not able kutoka nje.
Passengers injured after county askaris shoot tear gas in a Matatu.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Olive Burrows.
Glad you could join us on NTV Tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Flora Atieno. And to our top story. Tonight, the list of those questioned over the 65 billion shillings Aror and Kimwarer Dam scandal is growing. Former Devolution Principal Secretary Irungu Nyakera was the latest to be questioned at the DCI headquarters today.
Nyakera recorded his statement at the Criminal Investigations Branch as a witness. NTV's Mel Miendo reports that investigators flew to Mombasa today to record statements from Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa and his agriculture counterpart Mwangi Kunjuri.
Investigators are closing in on suspects involved in the 65 billion shillings Aror and Kimorer Dam scandal, said to have cost 21 billion shillings, which had been paid out as part of the contract sum. Wednesday morning, former Devolution Principal Secretary Irungu Nyakera was summoned at the DCI, and as cabinet secretaries met in Mombasa with Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, investigating officers flew there to record further statements from Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa and Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kunjuri. The cabinet secretaries are expected back in Nairobi on Saturday, 30th March 2019, but the detectives could not wait until then. Kunjuri was at the helm of the Devolution Ministry when contracts awarding the construction of the Kimorer and Aror dams in Elgeyo Marakwet to CMC Diravena were signed. Wamalwa was the Minister for Water and Irrigation from July 2015 to January 26th, 2018, when he was handed his current docket. It is expected that Judy Wahungu, who was the Environment Cabinet Secretary at the time of the signing of the contracts, will also be summoned to DCI headquarters. Just a day ago, detectives questioned Trade Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya and East Africa Community Cabinet Secretary Aidan Mohammed and 3 principal secretaries. Detectives are questioning why Kerio Valley Development Authority, KVDA, is providing services for dam construction, yet the company falls under water and irrigation services. It is the Kenya Forestry Service, KFS, which confirmed to detectives that no due diligence was carried out in sectioning the forested land for the construction of the 2 dams in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Investigators now say that there are indications that there was no plan to actually construct the dams from the beginning. This, they say, was a well-orchestrated scam.
A keen focus is on the offshore accounts used by CMC Diravena, an Italian firm connected in the dams scandal. However, detectives will have to engage the International Criminal Court to get the money back to Kenya. Mel Miendo, NTV at the DCI headquarters. Queen's Counsel Kawar Qureshi told the 5-judge bench presiding over a graft case involving the DCJ, Philomena Mwilu, that there is no law preventing a sitting judge from being tried in a criminal court.
Qureshi also explained to the court how the DCJ allegedly irregularly obtained a loan from a commercial bank without proper documentation. NTV's Seth Olali attended the hearing at the Milimani Law Court and filed this report.
Day 2 of the hearing of the graft case against Deputy Chief Justice had the prosecution led by Queen's Counsel Hawar Qureshi submit evidence before the 5-judge bench led by Justice Helen Omondi at the High Court.
Petitioner was engaged in buying and selling property.
The Queen's Counsel was in company of Deputy Director of Public Prosecution Dorcas Oduor, State Prosecutor Alexander Muteti, together with Attorney General's Counsel Emmanuel Biita. Kureshi started by clarifying that a sitting judge can be tried in a criminal court of law before appearing in the Judicial Service Commission.
The petitioner appears to be more comfortable with abandoning the presumption of innocence, with appearing before the Judicial Services Commission in private, without public presence, where she seems to believe that allegations of dishonesty could be considered. And what would be the standard of proof?
The Queen's Counsel further explained how the Deputy Chief Justice allegedly irregularly obtained an unsecured, undocumented and zero interest 12 million shillings loan from Imperial Bank Limited and only paid when the bank had gone under receivership 2 years later.
That there is a substantial amount of indebtedness, some 49 million shillings, which is now unsecured. Indeed, it would appear that the proposed replacement security was, in fact, sold and could never have been provided.
Kureshi told the court that the irregular bank transaction was aided by suspicious direct dealings the DCJ had with the then managing director of Imperial Bank Limited without verification from any other bank official, and that the prosecution has evidence of the Deputy Chief Justice personally attending the late MD's funeral.
And what she's asking for is a loan facility to purchase property valued at 120 million shillings. She's seeking a facility of 70 million. And she told us that she's negotiating at arm's length with the bank in the same way as any other private customer would. But let's just see who this was written to. Top left, the group managing director, no less. Now, I suspect that the Imperial Bank is no different from any other bank. And I doubt very much that there are many customers, save for those who are extremely privileged, I wasn't going to say influential and well-connected.
The Queen's Counsel further defended DCI's involvement in the transaction, stating that the Kenya Revenue Authority raised the alarm over suspicious transactions, leading to the DCI and DPP swinging into action. Kureshi suggested to the court that such suspect transactions contributed to the collapse of Imperial Bank Limited with 34 billion shillings due to gross mismanagement that necessitated massive fraud. All the parties represented in the graft case implicating Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu will issue the final submissions on Thursday when the hearing continues. Seth Olale, NTV, Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
So a case that will soon be going for hearing as well. A woman suspected to be part of a syndicate that prints and sells fake birth and death certificates was arrested and charged at the Milimani Law Courts.
DCI detectives based at the Immigration Department found 347 forged certificates at Jacqueline Kwamboka's home in Kawangware. Detectives also recovered a computer, printer, seal for civil registrations and an assortment of documents from her house.
The suspect was released on a free bond, awaiting hearing next week. Police say investigations are at an advanced stage.
And very sad when we see Kenyans are being conned, paying over 1,000 shillings for a birth or death certificate, whereas the most expensive service we offer is only 150 shillings.
The implication of a birth certificate, a fake birth certificate or death certificate is so huge because by chance you may find a person, one or two, may slip and get an ID with a fake birth certificate. It can be a terrorist. You can be able to get letters of administration through death certificates and sell somebody's property, make false claims on insurance. So I think it's a big thing. It's not a very easy thing. But I think we will use all other means possible to ensure that all the culprits are brought to book.
6 bodies discovered in the Tsavo West National Park are now at the city mortuary.
Families whose relatives have been missing are now asking the government to speed up the DNA testing to enable them to establish whether their kin are among the bodies discovered in the Tsavo West on Tuesday.
The families have been unable to physically identify the badly mutilated and decomposing bodies that are currently lying at the city mortuary.
One by one, families troop into the city mortuary, drawn here by the recent arrival of 6 bodies from the Tsavo West National Park. These families have been searching for their members who disappeared between mid-February and early March this year. Abdi is looking for his brother Ramadan Ali. Ali disappeared on the 12th of this month. He was traveling to Isiolo alongside a friend identified as Frederick Mwangi. They were last seen at Archer's Post. Their last mobile phone's location, Maili Saba, at 11:30 p.m. the same day. The family suspects foul play in the disappearance of the 2 businessmen.
Kwa hivyo kama ni uhalifu wa kawaida ungekuwa umetendeka, tungesii kwamba polisi wangekuwa na habari ama kuna ripoti yote ingefanyika.
They aren't the only ones seeking these answers. Hersi Kene Tache, a chief inspector with the administration police in Nairobi's Embakasi area, disappeared in unclear circumstances in mid-February this year.
Kuna jamaa alisema mtu wetu alishikwa na KWS.
Another family is also looking for 2 brothers who were allegedly taken from within the capital's city's CBD by armed people. The families gathered at the city mortuary hoping to get some answers to either confirm their worst fears or to allay them. But the bodies they came to view and possibly identify are in no state to offer that much needed closure.
Tulipofika pale tukaangalia zile mwili wale watu wenyewe sio mwili inaweza tambulika venye iko. Hiyo sio mwili inaweza tambulika.
While the link amongst the missing people is yet to be established, the state of the bodies could hold vital clues to how they could have been killed.
These bodies have ropes on the neck. Unaona kamba hii ya makonge zimefungwa kwa shingo.
The bodies were discovered yesterday by KWS rangers on patrol within the Tsavo West National Park, a kilometer from the main Nairobi-Mombasa highway. The naked bodies had no identification on them. Today, KWS officials declined to address media who sought access to the scene of incident and blocked them from taking any photographic evidence. The bodies were moved from Makueni to Nairobi last night to facilitate post-mortem examination and possible identification.
The families who suspect that their missing kin could be amongst the 6 bodies that were recovered from the national park yesterday will have to wait for another 3 months before DNA tests can determine whether this is true or not. Brenda Wanga, NTV, Nairobi.
The driver of the bus that rammed a lorry at Matuu, killing 14 passengers, remains on the run 16 hours after the tragic accident. The accident occurred along the Thika-Garissa highway when the bus rammed a stalled lorry on the side of the road. NTV's Helen Wanjoy has been following up details on this story and will be giving us the details very shortly. And yes, this is not the first that a driver has actually been on the run, but let's get more details from earlier.
Majority of the passengers. Passengers of the ill-fated bus sit in shock, with some thankful to be alive. They escaped death by a whisker, majority of the passengers being residents from Mandera. What they thought would be a smooth ride from Mandera to Nairobi turned tragic as the driver of the Medina bus rammed into a lorry that was parked on the side of the Thika-Garissa highway. Mohammed Ibrahim, one of the survivors, still in shock when we found him.
Yo sijui hata mimi niko na confused, lakini nimesikia sauti akaona gari sio sawa, hata akili hata nimepoteza rada, siwezi kaambia vile sinifanyika.
The accident killed 14 people on the spot, 10 men, 3 women and 1 child. 27 injured passengers who sustained head and chest injuries, fractures and internal bleeding were rushed to Matuu Level 4 Hospital. 4 of the passengers sustained serious injuries and were referred
We apologize for that difficulty. We will be bringing the full report a little later. Now on to a story that's bound to get your spirits up. Peter Mokaya Tabichi, the 2019 Global Teacher Prize winner, is back home. Tabichi, who beat over 10,000 teachers from around the world, was crowned on Sunday night. NTV's Sharon Baranga brings us that report.
A majestic walk for the world's best teacher. At exactly 3:30 p.m., Peter Mokaya Tabichi, the winner of the Vaki Global Teacher Prize Award, arrived home. Among those who are here to receive him were his students from Keriko Mixed Day Secondary School in Nakuru County and his colleagues. For a moment, they sang and danced as they lifted Tabichi in the air.
This is not just my achievement, I'm just representing all teachers in Africa, the whole world, and therefore this is a win for everyone.
Concerning the status of teachers, today, the next generation of the best and the brightest, we want to inspire them to consider teaching as an attractive profession. If we are to make this world a better place, we need the best students to go into the teaching profession.
Tabichi teaches mathematics and physics. He beat over 10,000 teachers from around the world who are eyeing the award worth 100 million shillings.
The other thing I'm going to ensure that we have facilities like we don't have lab equipment, and then we're going to have a computer lab with the good internet. We don't have
Kenyan teachers have been shortlisted 4 times as top 10 finalists representing the continent in the Vaki Global Teacher Prize. This is the first time a male teacher got the award.
Peter Mokaya Tabichi stands as an inspiration not only to teachers, but also those looking to join the profession. Sharon Baranga, NTV, Nairobi.
Teacher Peter Tabichi, we celebrate you for that feat and, of course, definitely making Kenyans proud. 3 people have been injured after people believed to be Nairobi County askaris hurled a tear gas canister. This was not a protest. A tear gas canister inside a Matatu heading to Umoja Estate. The incident that occurred last night has raised concern about the troubling mishandling of the public by the county askaris and the police who accompany them on such missions.
It is the calm after the fiery, smoky storm that has left 3 people nursing serious injuries, with others escaping with minor ones. The driver of the vehicle limps in pain after the incident that damaged his vehicle and probably visited losses to the vehicle's insurer. The 9:30 p.m. incident occurred yesterday after a confrontation between the Matatu crew and City Council askaris that ended with 2 of the askaris boarding the Matatu and directing the driver to the city county yard. But as soon as the vehicle was in motion,
Kasikia something imerusha na ika-explode. Kidogo moshi ikaja, we were not able kutoka nje. So nikitry kutoka, kiti ilikuwa inawaka moto.
The incident came as a shock to the occupants of the vehicle. It would be more shocking for them to discover that the cause of the explosion was a tear gas canister hurled inside the Matatu by a police officer who was in the company of county askaris, blatantly disregard the well-being of those inside.
Sikuweza kuona, kwanza niliingizwa hapo cause my whole body ilikuwa inawasha, my chest nilikuwa nikana feel na burn.
NTV's effort to get comment from the county was met with convenient aloofness. This as county enforcement officers and central police officers tried to convince the complainants to downplay the issue.
So wamepigiwa simu na OCS ameongea sijui na I guess ni mkubwa wao. Akawaambia wakuje waangalie gari venye inakaa, ndio waseme kama watailipa ama hawatalipa.
The Matatu operators have rejected the offer by the county and instead reached out to the media. In turn, the police and county officers then decided to accuse the driver of failing to stop and sparking the incident. On the 16th of March, a similar incident was reported as county askaris alongside police officers were caught on camera shooting tear gas canisters into yet another PSV vehicle. The simple act of boarding a matatu to or from work seems to be becoming a dangerous venture, with the police seemingly orchestrating a truce between the owners of the matatus and the city council askaris. The question remains, who will compensate the injured passengers and bring the rogue askaris to book? Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Now, as promised, we bring you that story of the 14 who died in a road accident in Matuu. The driver of that bus, which rammed into a lorry, killing 14 passengers, remains on the run 16 hours after the tragic accident. The accident occurred along the Thika-Garissa highway when the bus rammed a stalled lorry on the side of the road. NTV's Helen Wanjohi with more details.
Passengers of the ill-fated bus sit in shock, with some thankful to be alive. They escaped death by a whisker, majority of the passengers being residents from Mandera. What they thought would be a smooth ride from Mandera to Nairobi turned tragic as the driver of the Medina bus rammed into a lorry that was parked on the side of the Thika-Garissa highway. Mohamed Ibrahim, one of the survivors, still in shock when we found him.
Yo sijui hata mimi niko na confused, lakini nimesikia sauti akaona gari sio sawa. Hata akili hata nimepoteza rada. Siwezi kaambia vile sinifanyika.
The accident killed 14 people on the spot, 10 men, 3 women and 1 child. 27 injured passengers who sustained head and chest injuries, fractures and internal bleeding were rushed to Matuu Level 4 Hospital. 4 of the passengers sustained serious injuries and were referred to Kenyatta National Hospital. The bodies were taken to Matuu Hospital mortuary, where families had to identify their kin. The passengers claimed they had woken up the bus driver 3 times throughout the journey and had urged him to tone down the deafening music from the bus. The bus driver fled after the accident, but police arrested the lorry driver. The lorry owner, however, asserted his driver was not to blame.
Driver akanipigia saa 10 na dakika 41 akanambia gari laharibika GS. Nikamwambia hiyo gari aweke kando ili tujue shida ni nini. The next 5 minutes akanambia tumepata ajali na gari tulikuwa tumeshaweka kando. Huyo driver alikuwa na makosa, hata vile tulikuwa tunasaidia watu alishatoroka.
Medina bus KCM 912H was towed from the accident scene that is barely 500 meters from Matuu police station. The police are still investigating on the cause of the early morning crash, despite the lorry being parked on the roadside. Machakos County Commander Mohamed Farah says it is not clear why the bus driver escaped, leaving behind the victims.
Nani alikuwa na makosa hatuwezi sema saa hizi ni basi ama ni lori, kwa sababu bado tunafanya uchunguzi. Baada ya kufanya uchunguzi ndio tutajua ni nani tutablame, ni nani tutapeleka kotini.
Mandera Governor Ali Roba shared his condolences with the family, adding that the county government will support families of the victims and treatment for the injured who require long-term medical care in various hospitals.
Following the tragedy, Mandera County government will avail Kenya shillings 3 million from the disaster fund to support the victims. A total of 800,000 Kenya shillings will be shared among the families who have lost their loved ones for burial.
23 passengers were discharged from the hospital with minor injuries. Helen Wanjohi, NTV.
Certainly hope justice will catch up with the driver of the bus that has escaped, if not for anything else, for the lives of those lost and the families and friends, of course. Something you should look forward to tomorrow. Public servants will soon lose several allowances paid to them in a shock move by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission that targets their allowances and which has the potential to heavily affect household budgets.
The most affected will be senior government officials who enjoy layers upon layers of allowances much higher than their basic salaries. While the cream of these allowances is enjoyed by the top civil servants, a number of them are spread across all job cadres and are the driver of the government's wage bill crisis, currently at 730 billion.
In the Daily Nation tomorrow, a special report on the 149 allowances payable in the public service today, which cunning civil servants are exploiting at the expense of the taxpayer, and why public service payslips could soon be much thinner should the SRC have its way. Get your copy of that definitely tomorrow. We take a break at this point. Stay with us.